Imagine for a minute you're restarting a nuclear plant that was shuttered. And imagine you're a young supervisor that has to build a team from people that have various experience levels. How do you do it? Ryan Smothers from Palisades, this is my second interview from Palisades, folks, goes through that. And I think you're really going to enjoy the episode. He brings a lot of insight. He's a young guy, but he's very wise. Here's Ryan Smothers. You're an RP supervisor?
Chemistry.
Not RP, sorry. I don't know. Is that a thing where you get upset?
No.
You don't care. All right.
It should be one group, and we work together a lot. So.
I gotcha. What I took from a lot of what we talked about at lunch, and then I saw you were in a leadership seminar, and one of the things I recognized is a lot of your responses were pretty in-depth. And some of the organizational things we discussed, it seems like you really had an interesting take on things, because when I look at Palisades, it's pretty chaotic every day. When you say, just if you look at it from maybe a micro standpoint, maybe.
It can be at times.
But it's emotional, back up and down. Some days you probably come in and say, I want to get these 5 things done, and you don't get -5.
That's definitely true.
But let's just talk a little bit, jump in the organizational standpoint. So you came into the scene here. How did you staff your organization? What kinds of behaviors and attributes were you looking for in the folks that you hired?
Yeah, when I came in, there was really only a couple people in our group, and there were 2 qualified technicians. So we needed 9 more, which is a lot. And we're going to need to train 9 people with 2 people, and how are we going to do that? And so I guess we had a fair amount of applicants, and we were looking for, one, is there prior experience, or ex-Navy, because there's some experience from that as well. And we didn't get a lot of that. So then specifically, like just going through resumes, I think I paid a lot of attention on, let's just get the most qualified person that we can. Even if they're somewhat overqualified, let's do it. Let's bring them in. And if we train them and then eventually they say, hey, I want to do something that's a little further along, I want to move up, or I want to move to another department or whatever, that doesn't matter, because we brought the most qualified people into the site. We've made the organization stronger, and we can always hire somebody else and bring someone else up to speed if we need to. So that was really one of the primary focuses, was let's get the most qualified people we can.
Yeah, did you go by attitude and feeling? Talk a little bit about that.
Oh yeah, so that was our other major focus in interviews. Who do we currently have on site? Who are they going to be able to work well with? And then we've been in the industry a while. People that we're talking to, how are they going to fit into this industry in particular? Actually, one of the things we tried to do in the interviews is we tried to tell the good and things that we thought were bad about the industry and difficult about the industry.
A good example.
I would say the nuclear industry schedules can be challenging. So that was one of the things that we had a list of, maybe there's 4 or 5 things that are somewhat difficult. And we went over with the team and said, we're going to cover all these in every interview. And it might not be me saying what the schedule is going to be. Maybe it was another person on the interview team. But we were all watching, what is the reaction when we talk about some of these difficulties that we have to deal with.
So you actually had people that were individual contributors on the interview team?
So we had one of our chemistry technicians on the interview team, the other supervisor that's in the group, and then one of our staff chemistry person.
So afterwards, you got together as a group, and how did you, it sounds like Animal House, when they threw the beer at the screen, when they put, what's his name on there, Dorfman, whatever. But did you have a meeting afterwards to discuss the candidate?
So I think the first couple that we sent offers out to, that was a discussion of, hey, this person's going to be really good and really excel. And all of them actually were people that we thought would do well in the industry. But after the first couple, there was this additional question, like, how are they going to fit in with all the people that we're hiring? So it was very important to find people that we thought would work well together.
And why did you think that was such an important aspect?
So we have a really big task to qualify 9 chemistry technicians in a year and a half with only 2 qualified chemistry technicians. To me, that's something I hadn't ever heard of in the nuclear industry before. So we got to think of all these different ways to be outside the box. And just one of them really is if we have really good team cohesion and people can work together really well, then they can help each other succeed. And that was like a primary focus.
Yeah, and I think you mentioned when we talked, you started seeing things click. Do you remember the instant where it's like, you're putting all your ingredients together for the cake, but you're not quite sure it's going to work out? Was there a moment where it's like, hey, this is starting to actually work out like we had planned?
There's been a couple of those. Right off the bat, our group was just, they were hanging outside with each other outside of work a lot, which that's just an indicator right away that you got the right people together. But beyond that, working through initial training, we had various auditors come in and watch things. And I remember one auditor came to me and said, before the class even started, I knew that this training was good because they were on break and they were all quizzing each other and asking, hey, did you understand that thing he was talking about? And they were all already helping each other. So
that is awesome.
Yeah.
Something you mentioned too was turn the ship around. How do you apply that today to your role, given all the challenges and everything else?
Yeah.
Maybe a little background on turn the ship around and some of the concepts.
Yeah, I'll put a plug in for that book. That's a really good book. That book, one of the primary concepts in that book is that as a leader, you maintain the responsibility, but the ownership is whoever you're leading, they have the ownership. So I have talked to each of our employees individually in one-on-ones and also as a group about my expectation that I might be responsible for what happens in the lab, but it is really their lab. So if they have ideas or new things they want to do or changes they want to make, I really want to make those changes too. There may be, because several people are new, there may be times when I know there's a guardrail here and I have to say, yeah, from experience, we don't really need to go that way, but at least they would then understand the reason why we're not doing that. But it's really important, I think, for our employees to own their work area and their workspace. And that has made a bunch of significant there's been changes in the lab, suggestions that they brought up.
An example just to solidify it in people's heads.
Sometimes even really simple things. Like one really simple one is just that the technician said, hey, it would work a lot better if we put our gloves over here because this is where we make standards and it makes our workflow a lot smoother. So we made that move and everybody liked it. I would say if the people that work for you are coming up with the ideas, they're much more likely to follow them. Right. Because they're their ideas. So as long as it might not be exactly how I would do it, but if it works, and it might actually work better because it's their idea.
Now, you talk around the edges of culture, so you've let them make decisions. I'm sure you had some folks who were a little scared maybe initially to do that. How did you those folks? Do I really have the power to make these decisions?
That's a good question. I think it's really, this is something that I keep revisiting. I keep bringing up again and again. Okay, I want you to provide suggestions and really own this. This space is your space. It's your lab. It's not my lab. I am responsible for what happens in the lab, but it is yours.
So if you just keep saying that periodically, people pick up on it. It also seems like when they're at a group level, folks are doing that. That's going to encourage that behavior too.
Yeah, and I think maybe some people are reserved and don't want to do that at first, but then they might see somebody else provide a suggestion and then it gets implemented and then pretty soon it's, you know what, I could probably do that too. I think really that whole mindset is, I'm not going to be in this job forever and we need to train new leaders, right? And the only way to bring new leaders up from within is to give them the opportunity to make decisions and see the results of those decisions.
That's awesome. Yeah. One of the things that you mentioned is you're not, and I'll get the words wrong, but you're not doing the work now to get the plant to start up. You're getting it to run.
Oh, yeah.
Talk about how that affects your daily decision making.
Yeah, from a people aspect, our goal is not to start the plant up. Our goal is to operate a nuclear plant. So we need to train nuclear operators, not just get through these projects. For example, one of the things we're doing with our new employees is they're all new to nuclear. So we split them into 3 groups of 3, and we're going to send each group of 3 to a different utility, to an operating nuclear reactor for about a week just to do a benchmark so they can see what it looks like before we're actually online.
Oh, yeah. Have you sent anybody yet?
Not yet, no. We just nailed down all the dates and what site they're going to go to. So when I get back next week, we're going to start going through who wants to go where, and then we'll file all of our travel.
So if we hear this a lot, new leaders especially, is I'm really comfortable with the technical stuff, not so comfortable with the people things. And you're talking about giving up control, giving them, engaging people, allowing them to make decisions. You might have seen it differently. How would you encourage those new leaders that are listening to this to kind of push themselves a little bit?
I did that. Years ago, I was in the Navy when I first made first class. I was an LPO on an aircraft carrier. I think that's a natural thing for a new leader to say, all right, I'm in charge now. I'm going to grab the reins, really direct things. I think it's a mistake because there's no way I'm going to come up with better ideas than my entire group. My entire group is a lot of different minds looking at it from a lot of different angles. It is very tempting to do that. I understand why a leader would want to do that, but I think experienced leaders over time will realize that their team actually comes up with better results.
But then if you're not there, they're still successful. What's your job then, Ryan? Sounds like you're working yourself out of a job, brother.
That's exactly what I want to do. I want to make it so that it's a well-oiled machine, so that if I leave, whoever comes into this position just needs to keep it on the rails. I don't want an organization that relies on a single person.
Yeah. I love what you said earlier is you're not interviewing for people to take the job. You're giving them a sense, is this going to be a good relationship?
Yeah.
Because the plan has all these 24-hour challenges. How would you encourage a new leader to embrace I'm not just going to tell you the good stuff. I'm going to tell you the whole story and let you decide so you come in with your eyes wide open. So I'm not just trying to fill a slot.
Yeah, it's a huge benefit to me and anybody that I would potentially hire that we have a full picture of what we're getting into, right? In the nuclear industry, it takes a long time to train somebody. For us, like I said, we have a year and a half. We're going to take like the whole year and a half. We want people to fully understand what they're into before they show up so that we don't spend 6 months training somebody and then we lose all that training. Yeah, you got to tell the good and the bad.
Yeah. And it sounds like that's almost a way to build trust initially because you're not holding back.
Oh, yeah, I don't want
Not a bait and switch.
I don't want them to be surprised about anything.
Yeah. So your background, you just talked about at lunch, is you did some IT stuff. You worked at Palisades, did some IT stuff, learned some mess with blueberries. What's up with that, Ryan?
Yeah, so just IT has been something that I've enjoyed all my life, like computers. But I got into nuclear, and I was in nuclear for quite a long time. So I got my degree in IT, and when the plant closed, I figured I'd just go give it a shot. And I went and worked as a business intelligence analyst, and I got certified to develop novel AI computer models. And I did that for a blueberry company. It was a great experience. The company, they're very family oriented. The supervisor I had was great. So there's actually things that they did or that I saw him do that I was like, I'm going to steal some of that and bring that back into nuclear.
What? Give me a quick example of one comes to mind.
I'll just give you one. Yeah, one of the things that he did is he would just sometimes show up he didn't have a purpose. He would just show up and then sit down and talk to us some. And it didn't have to be work related. He was just present. But I think that was intentional. Yeah. I think him being present.
Must have felt weird at first.
Yeah, I don't know. He was pretty friendly. So it really broke down some barriers. It makes it so you feel like okay talking to him.
Because shared some stuff.
You talk about just like normal stuff, maybe something outside of work. But the other thing is that he was available. Like he was showing that he had the time. If there was something that needed to be discussed work related or whatever, that could also happen.
Yeah, so it sounded like you had a pretty good thing going. Then you decided to come back to Palisades. Why?
Yeah, it was a great job. I came back to Palisades because mainly I really believe in the nuclear industry. I think it's the most vetted baseload power supply that's like virtually carbon free. I think it's a really good source of power, and I think the future of nuclear power is really important. I looked at what they're doing at Palisades, restarting a nuclear plant, the potential to start up SMRs at the plant. That's all a huge deal. I have kids. I care about the environment. All those things really weighed heavily on my decision. I decided to come back.
A good one?
Yeah, I think it's a good decision. When I made the decision, I was like, this is not going to be easy. The job I'm currently at, it wasn't like super easy, but it was very comfortable. And I had always had technical roles in the past. I came up through chemistry in various technical positions. Before the plant closed, I was the technical supervisor. And so now coming back as the supervisor of the chemistry technicians, which is a group that's union, this would be much more people-oriented, and it's a little bit out of my wheelhouse. So I figured it would stretch me a little bit too.
How does it feel to watch people develop versus solving technical things for you?
I actually think it's more rewarding. Yeah.
Say more. When you, that rewarding part, who do you see? You don't have to say a name or whatever. What kinds of things do you see from that person now that you did when you first started? Questions get tougher, Ryan.
No,
I should have
okay.
shared.
So, like, I can think of one person in particular who just last week was watched doing a
TP stands for?
training performance evaluation. IMPO came and watched them do it, and really I think there's probably a lot of pressure there. They've only been in the industry for maybe 8 months, and now they're standing in front of IMPO and trying to do task error-free. And that person had a lot of confidence, I feel like, when they went into that. And then coming out of that, they got glowing reviews. Everything went really well. And just seeing that this person is really doing a good job and becoming a nuclear worker and has all this that we look for in nuclear workers are starting to really take hold. That's, I don't know, it's very rewarding. It's like it's actually working.
Yeah, and it must feel good that it seems like you're in the right job at the right time.
Yeah.
And you can really, it sounds like you're changing lives.
There was a piece about coming back to Palisades that was like, it's almost a clean slate. There's not that many people there right now, and we have a chance to really influence the culture and set the type of culture that we want. That was another piece that was attractive to me, that we could really set up a good place to work. I want it to be a place that people want to come to work.
Yeah. So last question. So if you look 5 years down the road, what's your hope for Palisades, and what do you want people, when they're putting in a job to work at Palisades, what do you want them to experience when they show up? Looking ahead 5 years and down the road.
One, I hope Palisades is online, and I hope that the SMR project is well underway, if not completing. The group that we have, I hope some of them that decide they like the job they're currently in are still doing that job, and some that decide to move on into other positions within the plant, and that they're mentoring people with the same kind of ideas. Yeah. That's the goal, like really to have it repeat and move forward.
Yeah. I really appreciate your time. I know you don't relish time and probably like this. Really appreciate it. I think a great message to send other people that hear this podcast, so I appreciate it.
All right, thank you.
All right, let's go eat lunch.
Hope you enjoyed that episode of the Nuclear Leader Podcast. Please tell a couple friends about the show, and let them know that we've created a podcast for them. Nuclear leaders, or people that want to be leaders, or people that are curious about the nuclear industry and want to learn more. You're going to hear from real leaders out there trying to knock it out of the park. So I think Ryan's interview is a great example of that. He comes from the right place, which is let's build the right team, let's give them the resources they need, and let's help them be successful. And that's what good leaders do, especially in a challenging industry like the commercial nuclear industry, where you can make a decision that can impact not only your group and your organization, but the entire community. And I'm just floored. I'm floored by the people at Palisades and the folks at Holtec that are taking on this momentous challenge of trying to restart this unit and keep it running. October 2025 is fast approaching. Let's wish them the best of luck. This is Bill Nowicki saying thanks for listening. We'll talk to you next time in the Nuclear Leader Podcast.